It's Wednesday, December 13th, and that means it's time for another awesome episode of Ekeler's Edge. Joining me, as he always is LA Chargers running back Austin Ekeler. Austin, what's going on, buddy?
Oh, Matt. Well, after you get a win, your mental is a lot better. Is in a lot better space. But the physical part of the body still beat up. That's why it was only one fist pump today instead of the usual double fist pump. My shoulder is feeling some type of way, but no problem because it'll be good by Sunday. But looking forward to this episode, and let's get into it, man.
Yeah, man. It was funny during the pre-production meeting yesterday. It was like, oh, Austin, you must be, if a couple of producers like, hey, Austin, you must be feeling great. It's like, well, yeah, I feel great that we won, but also still feel like I took a bunch of hits. So yeah. It's the up and down thing that we always talk about every single week. But hey, Austin, it's almost the end of the year. You know, this is a great time when people are looking for causes to donate to, charities, stuff like that. So maybe people are out there in the holiday spirit in lieu of promoting the giveaways, which of course are always still active. Why don't you tell the people like where they should consider donating to the Austin Ekeler Foundation?
Yeah. Through my foundation, we basically just implement resources back into the community. For instance, we're building a weight room as our next project for a school out here in California. We've done stuff all across the nation. We've basically donated anything from like school equipment to like bigger projects, like I said, the weight room, washers and dryers, things like that. And it's all across the nation. All the way, I guess we've gone out as far as Chicago for a football program and, donated some supplies to them. So really, all the donations that go to the Austin Ekeler Foundation, whether you make them directly or if you buy our merch, that could be a good holiday gift. Get you some Austin Ekeler Foundation merch. We have a couple different lines on there. All of those profits go to all of our projects as well. So there's a couple different ways you can get involved. But yeah, everything goes back to, like I said, tangible resources that people can use to help better themselves. The things that you might think is normal in your life that, some communities, some people don't really have access to. So that's what we're really focusing on with our foundation. So I appreciate you, Matt. Let me get a plug there. And check us out, at austinekeler.com. You can check out all the projects we've done, everything we have going on, and how to donate.
Hey, the merch is a great idea, right? Especially, I always say this, if you have Austin on a fantasy team and you win a title this year with Austin or a daily fantasy, anything like that, take some of those and you can give the money to the cause while also like getting yourself an Austin Ekeler t-shirt to celebrate the fact that he won you a bunch of fantasy stuff like that. So all good stuff there. That's how we build a great community here in the fantasy football world. Let's get right into it, Austin. We got a lot to talk about here today. We've got A.J. Brown coming up later in the show. That's pretty exciting. I'm very gassed up for that interview, which we haven't done yet. So that's authentic. I'm gassed up about it. But let's get into it first here. Chargers 23, Dolphins 17. Fun game all around to watch. Very stressful game all around to watch. But there's a lot of things we can talk about here, Austin. But what were your thoughts generally on the game and how you performed and how the offense performed?
Well, I mean, at this point in the season, that's what I'm just expecting from us. It's a stressful game. Like, if it's not a stressful game, I'm surprised at this point. Our games have always been using the entire 60 minutes. This one was no different, coming down to a last onside kick that was dribbling around on the ground. I'm just like, oh, no. And so, it didn't disappoint as far as, the intensity of the severity of every single second in that play. So that was, to be expected. But offensively, we came out strong. And then the NFL is the NFL, right? You go through ups and downs, and we're trying to limit our downs. And, we just had too many negative plays there in the third quarter, which I think really kept us from shutting them away and making it a 3-score game when we have an opportunity to do that. And so guess what? Here they come. Tyreek catches one down the sideline, puts him down 3. Man, some crazy plays there for their offense.
Crazy plays, yeah.
The old fumble-rooski, just like we do.
I've never seen that. Right. I don't know that I've ever seen an offensive lineman at the bottom of the scrum. Shout out to Teron Armstead, just flip that bad boy up to Tyreek Hill. But hey, if you got a guy like Tyreek Hill, I guess you could put that play in the playbook. You could practice that.
Yeah. Somehow we're gonna get the ball to number 10 and let him go run as fast as he can. No one else can catch him. So I've actually seen a play like that happen before where Melvin Gordon was running the ball. gets stripped. Keenan picks it up and runs it for a touchdown. So I guess that was just karma coming back, and evening it out there. But yeah, it was a fun game offensively. Even though it wasn't as sharp as we would have liked it, ups and downs. I think what was most exciting was seeing some of our playmakers back in the lineup doing what they do. Mike Williams, gosh, that guy's amazing. And then also Keenan Allen. And so just having Justin being able to throw the ball to those guys changes our entire offense. It allows us to really be, I feel like, a high efficiency offense where we have so many different people. You can get the ball to me, Keenan. Gerald had a couple good catches. Josh Palmer had some big third downs, right? It's like, yes, we have all of our offensive skill weapons back. So it was really fun, obviously, because we got to win too.
Yeah, for sure. I saw you on, I talked about this on the show before, that like I write my recap column for Sunday Night Football, and, the TV's just on in the background. So the show here on the West Coast, The Challenge, comes on NBC. So I saw you talking to the boys, Petros and Fred, after the game. And like you said, like, we still haven't put it all together, right? Like, that was a good game, good performance by the offense, but you're still looking for that complete 4 quarters game. I definitely hear that, but it was a real fun performance from the passing game, especially. I mean, Justin Herbert, like that game just really showed. And obviously we talked about the take poll, right? Like Tua versus Herbert, all the takes online, the Twitter stuff, right? But I think that game really showed a lot of what you talked about last week, what makes him such like a special player, what he does pre-snap, how he plays so well within the timing and the rhythm of the offense. So I thought it was just an awesome performance by him. And look, I've said this a lot with Mike and Keenan being out, like, show me the NFL offense that like can lose its top 2 receivers and just not skip a beat. Any quarterback would be affected.
Yeah, that's not how this league works. That's why we pay those guys so much money, because they're such a pivotal part of the offense. And when you don't have them, it definitely shows. I still caught 8 balls. I feel like that's just our identity at this point. Like, we're not a run heavy offense. We're gonna let Justin sling that thing around. That's where our strengths are. So, people talk about identities, and ours is definitely throwing the ball out to our guys and letting Justin maneuver in the pocket or even move the pocket and let him get his eyes downfield and air that thing out. Or if not, find his boy in the flat, and I'll hopefully make somebody miss. Get some yardage.
I was going to share this stat from Field Gates. He said Austin Ekeler is now up to 93 catches on the season. That's the most catches by any running back through 13 games in NFL history. He's on pace for 122, which would break Christian McCaffrey's record of 116. That was in 16 games for the most catches by any running back in a season. I know that you said you have mixed feelings about the whole catch and passes deal, but I mean, in some ways, they can be like when your run game's not clicking and firing on all cylinders, like they can be a replacement for the run game in that way.
Yeah, and that's exactly how it's been for us. I'm still pretty disappointed in our run game. We need to get that going, absolutely. Whatever the factor is, we need to get it fixed just so we can be a complete offense. And if we have the lead, we can, burn some time off the clock. We're not forced to pass because our run game isn't where it is. So, I mean, something we always work on. But it's like, okay, if it's not working, okay, how else can we get the ball to Austin? How can I get the ball? Well, it's like, hey, we can still throw him to check downs. We can still get some screens up to him, which were big in that game. Right before the half, got down a screen down to the 1 yard line, and then 4th and 1, they were able to punch it in. And so, Joe does a great job, I think, of feeling the game and then just trying to adjust during the game.
Yeah.
And when you're playing like that, I think it allows for you to play to your strengths, and especially when you have a lot of guys banged up, it's like, okay, who's hot, who's not, what's working, what's not, right? And that's how he's going to play, and that's kind of how we've been the entire season.
Yeah, I think this was one of Lombardi's better games, like getting Justin out of the pocket, those in-game adjustments, like you mentioned, that was all really good stuff to see. We'd be remiss if we didn't shout out the Chargers defense, though. And Brandon Staley, I think, put together, Staley's taken some heat. Again, we know the whole media deal, whatever, this year, but I thought that was a great game plan. And now I think it's a test for the Dolphins going forward. Like, if you're going to play them physical on the outside, you're going to press those guys and disrupt the timing of the play. Now that's like, they're going to enter another chapter where they have to sort of not redefine their identity, but find a new, like a counterpunch basically to what they showed in the first 12 weeks. So hell of a game by the Chargers defense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like you said, man, the game plan that we put in, like like you said, you right on top of it. I don't know if you saw it or you saw it live or you heard Staley talk about it, but yeah, he's like, hey, we're not just gonna let these guys run down the field. These guys got some of the fastest guys in the league, right? We're going to shut them down. We're going to, like you said, disrupt their timing. And it's exactly what they did. And they were able to stay attached enough to be in position to make plays. So shout out to those guys shutting down 10 for the most part. A couple fluke plays, the fumble-rooski, and then our corners right next to him falls down. So he still ended up doing some stuff for the fantasy world, but for the most part, we shut him down in the game.
That's the thing is, it's not too dissimilar. And where I first noticed it was the 49ers game. Like, and I'm obviously, if I noticed it, let me tell you what, Brandon Staley obviously notices. He's going back to watch the film, was doing like the press coverage is different than what a lot of other teams had played them through the course of the season, the Miami Dolphins. And look, Tyreek's on the other side, Jalen Waddle's on the other side. You're going to have one or two plays where you get embarrassed, right? But for the most part, though, you keep them at bay. It was a successful game plan. Great stuff by the Chargers defense. All right, Austin, great stuff. We'll move away from that game. We'll jump into the mailbag here because we have some really good questions that I'm curious about here. Ask Austin at yahoosports.com. Again, send your written emails in, your audio emails, whatever you got. We will talk about them on the show. Yusef sends a couple good questions in here. First one is, can you describe what a, quote, limited practice looks like? Do you put on pads? Do you run laps? How should we think about players that got in a limited practice from a fantasy perspective?
Do we run laps? That's hilarious. Hey, you're hurt. Take a couple laps. So yeah, a limited practice is definitely, I guess determined on what the injury is. Meaning if you have like a shoulder injury, you might be limited. It might just go through individual, which is kind of like after a warm up, we kind of split up and go through some individual drills. Like running backs will go do some ball handling with the quarterbacks, maybe catch some routes from them, and then do some like bag drills or work on like ball security, stuff like that. Then you won't get any practice reps. A lot of the times it just means you're either getting a certain number of practice reps or none, but you're going through the warm up. Because if you're out, then you can't participate. You didn't participate in the warm up. You didn't do anything. So limited would just be doing the next above that, which could be even the warm up. You could be considered limited. So there's a really broad range as far as what limited could mean. So it's really hard determining if someone was limited in practice, whether it's like good or not. Like, are they going to be able to play? Because they might have just warmed up and did nothing the rest of the day, or they might have done, for everything and 4 practice reps, but they were still limited because they didn't participate maybe in one of the periods. So yeah, that's what I would have to say about limited. I was limited this year with an oblique, and I think I had I remember that. I had 2 practice reps, and that was pretty much it. And then I was done for the rest of the day, but I still did everything else. So I was able to play still.
I have been sort of banging this drum lately that because there's a section of fantasy writers, fantasy analysts that are like, oh, the injury report, got to focus on the injury report. And it's definitely obviously a piece of the puzzle, but it's not like the end all be all for these things, right? Because there's levels to limited, there's levels to that to full participation, all that type of stuff, right? And even a great example is this T. Higgins this past week, was a full participant in Friday practice, and then they decided to play him one snap, and that was it. And it's like, oh, you started T. Higgins, and I did in one spot. You started T. Higgins, you ate that 0, and you had no idea it was coming. So there's some stuff going on with the injury report there. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
But that's the gray area that, I feel like you guys' analysis, that's where you have to really spend, I think, a good amount of time. If you can get good at being like, hey, this person's down, this would be a good replacement, like the kind of the backups or the injury reports, right? That's where I feel like a lot of people are searching for answers at, like, hey, I don't have this guy anymore. Who else should I pick up? Right. So definitely, my thing
is always just don't be too confident in your ability to forecast based off the injury report. It's I think that knowing when to say I don't know or knowing when to say I don't have all the answers is a very valuable trait in life, and I think it is certainly a very valuable thing in football. You can make yourself look like a real idiot if you come out hard on this is what's going to happen because of this and this. You have to leave some degrees of uncertainty there. Otherwise, again, you just make yourself look like a
and just know teams purposefully don't let all the details out, right?
Yes.
To protect themselves, to protect that player, protect the game plan for the week. So don't beat yourself up because you don't know. It's okay.
Yeah,
No one does.
That's basically that's what I'm. Yeah, that's what I'm implying here is that there's some gamesmanship there. There is some protecting of the players and everything like that. And you talk up at the top of the show about my shoulder is really bugging me. I don't think you're going to pop up on the injury report.
No.
If exactly. So, but there are still things that you guys are dealing with. And I think that's always important.
Right.
Yusef also wrote another question. I won't read the whole thing out because we got to get to the AJ Brown interview here in a little bit. But basically, was the long and short of it for the second part was, what are your thoughts on kind of practice rest versus rust for a team like the 49ers example? That was Yusef's thing, was if they beat the Seahawks this week, they can like moonwalk to the division. So what's sort of the balance between you rest guys down the stretch to keep them healthy for the playoffs versus like, do you start to get rusty and you lose your momentum?
There's definitely, like, whether coaches talk about it or not, there's definitely some type of, I guess, feeling about, okay, are we doing too much? What's not enough? What's our position as far as playoffs? Like, all of this has a part in the equation of, what you're doing with your guys. And it goes down deeper than just the games, even down to practice. And it also depends on who you have as a coach. For us at this point in the season, we're taking it back as far as the volume in practice, as far as full speed reps. We'll up our walkthrough reps and our mental reps that so we can still get the actual simulation of the calls and things like that. But actually, like, going out there and running full speed has been tempered down just because we're getting so late into the season. And at this point, we pretty much have all the playbooks and adjustments that we can make. Now it's just calling them different things or lining up in a different way. And then as you get into the games, I really feel like you have to keep guys in the games unless it's like that last game. Like, I feel like not because like, we think we're gonna, we don't want them to get hurt. Like, you can never go into the game saying you don't want your guys to get hurt. Like, you have to go out there and play, because if you're worried about injuries, I feel like that's when you're like playing timid, you're like holding guys back, and then it's like, I feel like that's when you're gonna get injured even more. It's like, let these guys go out there, play full speed, how the game's supposed to be played, and you see what happens at the end. But you can never predict injuries.
Right. That's so interesting that you say that, because it's such a big talking point on the outside this time of year. Like, are they going to start dialing guys back, because they don't want them to get hurt. They want to save them for the playoffs. So it's interesting that in your perspective that that's like not really a thing.
That's not how we work either. As competitors and as just our staff, like, we're not trying to go out there and be like, we're good. Let's hold myself back like that. I don't know. That just seems strange. Just talking about that. I actually saw something on like TikTok, like Debo got hurt, and they're like, "Why are we running him up the middle? They already won the game." It was like 23-0.
Jerry Rice.
Like that.
Jerry Rice said it. Jerry Rice was the one who said it too. Yeah,
it's like, what do you mean? Like, that's the play. You wouldn't have said anything if he didn't get hurt. But so we just don't put him out there. We don't put any of our guys out there. Everyone sits the bench now. Like, that's not how you play this game. That's not what we're out there to do. We're out there to continue to win and continue to go, make plays, right? And if you get hurt, it's unfortunate, but you're never expecting a guy to get hurt.
Right.
So it's there's a gray area in there. I think it's less gray as far as the players and the ownership side, more gray in the media where they're like, why'd they do that?
Yeah, no, that's interesting, because I've definitely like had that thought, but then it's like, he could get hurt doing anything, right? Like, anybody could get hurt doing anything on the field. So
exactly,
I thought that was really interesting there. All right,
do we just not practice anymore? We don't practice anymore, Matt. Like, hey, guys who made it to the playoffs. No one's practicing. I don't want any hamstrings, anything banged up. So we're just done. We're done. We're gonna go out there. We're gonna put all of the backups in, and we're gonna lose this game. But we're in the playoffs still, so it doesn't matter. No, you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that at all.
We've seen teams before that, like, I feel like back in the Peyton Manning Colts era, they did that, and then they'd get stomped in like the first round of the playoffs because they come in cold, whatever, they're out of rhythm, who knows? But it just like it's like you said, it's a gray area.
I feel like you could justify it more in the last game. In the last game of the season.
I think that's when you see it. But yeah, I think that's when you see it, but maybe not in like week 16, 17 stuff. No. Like, nah. All right. We'll save the last question we've got here for next week because it's a good one. I want to kind of dive into it, but I do want to just talk about your matchup this week before we throw to A.J. Brown here. You guys are going against the Tennessee Titans. By the way, great run defense. So maybe a little more, maybe more passes to Ekeler, maybe 12, 11, who the hell knows? I don't know. But you are obviously going up against another great running back in Derrick Henry, who sort of busted a slump last week. Like the 4 games coming into this, he was averaging, 2.8 yards per carry. It wasn't great. The efficiency wasn't there. The run game wasn't clicking, but then he averaged like 7 against the Jaguars last week. Derrick is a great player. Derrick's a hell of a nice guy too. Always say that he's like the nicest player in the NFL. But how do you feel about him as a player? Going against a guy that is a running back, but completely different style than you.
Yeah, he was one of my first round picks in one of my leagues. So the reason I say that is because I've been watching him. Like the guy, I watch my players throughout the season, make sure I follow them. That's how I actually become fans of guys like A.J. Brown, actually, who we're talking to next. He was one of my picks as well. And just watching Derrick, like if you're playing the Titans, what do you got to do? Like you better stop Derrick Henry. The games where Derrick Henry goes off is the games that they're in and they're winning. And so that's going to be the game plan for any team that's playing him, because he's the best player on their team as far as, explosiveness, as far as big play making ability, as far as getting in the end zone. And, he's rightfully earned that, right, over his past couple of years and what he's been able to do and just running through people. But yeah, absolutely different play style, different type of body. I'm probably the smallest starting running back in the league. He's definitely the biggest starting running back in the league. Or close to it, anyway. I mean, there's some other big guys out there. I know Najee's pretty big.
I think he takes the cake. I think he takes the cake, at least from a height perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I think Najee's like 6'2", 6'3"? I don't know.
He's up there,
yeah. One of those bigger backs, but not just big, just efficient too. And what's so crazy about Derrick? He just makes it look so easy. Like he looks like he's just like striding it out there, but he's outrunning dudes, man. It's those long strides that get going, and then he just stiff arming, running through D line. I watched this man. This is something that I don't have in my game, just from a physics standpoint. I watched this dude get around the corner, stiff arm a D lineman, right, and then continue to get around the corner and get up the field. It's like, yeah. See, if I try to stiff arm him, I got about 8 inches that I'm not getting there. And so D-line's just going to grab me and sling me to the ground. And so it's a different type of play style that you'll see from us going against each other this Sunday, but still going to be a great battle. I'll do my work catching the ball as well as running, and we'll see if our defense can put another stop together of this guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. He's a tough guy to go against. Such a fun, unique player too. I love guys that are kind of like one of one. It's because it's so rare. There's so many great athletes in the NFL, but yeah, a guy like him, he's so unique as a rusher. And I love the way they're getting him. I'm sure you guys your defense talked about this. Staley's talked about this. Like the way they've gotten him involved in the screen game, not catching freaking 8 to 10 passes like you are every single week, but 3 plays like that out in the open field, he can do a lot of damage. So it's really cool. That's going to be.
And when he gets running, oh no,
good luck. Yeah.
Oh
good
no,
luck, man.
It's a big
All
body.
Right. Well, we got to throw it to former Titans receiver A.J. Brown, current Eagles wide receiver, for a great chat. Let's hear what we had to say. All right, joining us now is Eagles wide receiver A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown joins us today, reminding you to try Old Spice Gentleman's Blend deodorants and body washes, crafted to be gentle on the skin with ridiculously long-lasting freshness. You can buy Old Spice Gentleman's Blend in stores now. A.J. Brown, what's going on, man? Thanks for joining the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. Just before we get into this, I just gotta let you know, we're a fantasy show. We talk fantasy, and I've known who you were, but I have actually had you on my team this year, and so I've been following your season, and so I have become a big fan. And so I love to shout out the guys that come on the show that I have on my team, because I become fans of all of them. I think that's just the power of fantasy football that sometimes guys overlook, where it's like, I had no business, really diving into your season, but because of fantasy, man, it brings us all together. So I appreciate your craft and what you've been doing, man.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you for drafting me.
Heck yeah, man. Good stuff. Good stuff. Are you involved in any of the fantasy stuff? You got a team? You mess with it at all?
Not this year. Last year I dove in a little bit. It was definitely fun. So
yeah. Well, I'll tell you, definitely been creating a lot of fans besides me out there nationwide, and that's one of the powers of fantasy football. And heck yeah, man. So keep it up, brother. Keep it up.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, pretty good draft pick you could make there. That's for sure. Hey, AJ, obviously going to the Eagles this year, I don't normally do the whole old tweet thing. But somebody brought a tweet of mine that I had during the draft when you got traded back to my attention, where it's a good thing. Trust me.
Okay.
So I said when you got traded, I was like, listen, this guy AJ Brown has top 5 wide receiver talent. Like, he is that good. And you got a bunch of goofballs replying to my tweet like, well, if only he had a quarterback, if only his quarterback could throw. So lot of criticism of Jalen Hurts before you got there. And look, I think it was number one, I think it was unwarranted. But number two, I think you being there has brought out like a new level of Jalen. You guys have brought out really the best in each other. What has that dynamic been like? And were people just wrong about Jalen, or is he taking another step this year?
I think people were definitely wrong about him. But definitely, I think he's still tuning up his games, tuning up the mechanics of his game. And it just kind of just show you like what type of person he is, what type of how hard he works. Because I saw it up close and personal how hard he worked this offseason and what he wanted to become. And right now we're witnessing right before our eyes.
Yeah, I saw a post-game show after the last game, and he was talking about how he just really focused on progress, right? Focus on just working to get himself and his teammates better. So when that's the message in the locker room, that's pretty special, right? Because you can't always control the results, but what you can control is the effort that you put into it. So if that's the messages over there, that's good stuff, man. I love it.
For sure, it definitely is. It definitely is, and that's one of the things that he preaches daily. Just trying to keep getting better as a group. Check your box, and you check your box, and we'll all be fine.
Yeah, I think what's cool too is that there have been people on the outside. They're like, "Wow, AJ Brown's like getting these targets on go routes. Like, I didn't even know he could do that stuff." And based on what he did in Tennessee, I'm like, "Bro, this stuff is on film. Like, you could see AJ Brown rip people up on go routes, but it's just different quarterbacks and different styles." So I think that's the cool thing is that you guys have obviously I think having a top level receiver like yourself makes life easier for the quarterback. But I think in a lot of ways too, the way Jalen loves to throw outside the numbers has brought out or shined a new light on something that you do really well as well.
I definitely think so. I think in the past, it was just kind of like more controlled in Tennessee. I definitely did the same thing I did in Tennessee as I'm doing now. But I think another thing, the market is bigger here, and just more spotlight. So and of course, I think our record kind of speaking for itself. It just bringing more eyes to it. So they're just watching more. I think that's all.
Yeah, I think that probably is it. You play for some of those NFC East teams, and there's a lot of attention. But this year it's been What has that experience been like going from like a small market team to a team in Philly that there's a lot of attention? I mean, my wife and I were watching the show. What's the show? Abbott Elementary, and it's staged in Philadelphia. And the first episode, they're like, "Eagles got AJ Brown, man." So it's a different level of a fan base there.
That's crazy. Shout out to that show. I want to be on that show just because.
Dude, they got to get you on the show. Get you on the show.
Yeah, that's crazy. But just changing markets, it's just been everything. We're getting ready they're talking about the Dallas game, and we're 2 weeks away. They're treating it like it's a playoff game. That type of animosity the game brings, and I think the market just does that for you. They want to see the Cowboys. They want to see the Eagles. That's always a tough matchup. So that just kind of show you how the market is here in Philly. So I'm definitely enjoying it. It's not a playoff game, but it's a regular season game, and that's how I look at it. But it definitely it's all along. I think last time we played the Cowboys, like 22 million was watching. Like, that's crazy. That's a regular season game,
Yeah, man. And when you get that fan base buy-in, I feel like it adds layers to the motivation for you to want to play. We're already highly motivated, right? But we can always use more, and we'll take anything that we can get. And so when you have the fans behind you as well, because right now we're in LA, man. It's a tough town out here to play in. We're building. It takes time to get into the community because there's a lot of roots that are really deep out here, and we're the new kids on the block. But when we go to these places, we play some teams like KC, Denver, where they have these roots just in their community, man, and just to feel the passion of that, it's pretty special. I know Philly's like that. We're out there a couple years ago too, man. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely fun to see football try to take its roots here in LA, but
it's tough, man. It's tough sledding out here, man. There's a lot going on.
It is a lot going on. It's like I said, a lot of celebrities out there. So it's a lot going on in LA.
Yeah, right. And the weather's good too. You got people out here. It's like sub 50 degrees, and people are in their parkas, and it's like apparently no place is colder in human history than LA when it gets below 60 degrees. So
you think so?
It's a weird place. But last question, at least for me, AJ. I do a series called Reception Perception where I chart routes for wide receivers and try to dive into the technique and how much you guys get open. You obviously pride yourself on your ability to get open. It's literally in your Twitter handle. Again, I think people are really tuned into it more this year. But your teammate DeVonta Smith, that's another guy that is, I don't think getting enough attention for the season that he's having. And I mean, he won the Heisman Trophy. People know who he is. But talk about sort of the development that he has taken this year, and also just like the dynamic that you two play off each other. Because I really feel like you are one of these wide receiver duos that it's not really a 1 and a 2. As great as you are, I feel like it's kind of a 1A and a 1B situation you got there.
I truly believe so. DeVonta has been great this year, but that just goes to like his skill set and how hard he works too. He's a very slippery receiver. It's if you cover him, if you put one guy over there, I would say good luck. But the good thing about it, I get cornerback number 1, and he's going to get cornerback number 2. And he's going to kill cornerback number 2. So like I said, you better. I would say you put help on his side. I would say put help on his side if I'm a coaching staff. If I'm on the coaching staff, but he's been doing a great job. I wasn't on the team last year, so I don't know, how he was last year, but I'm pretty sure he did really well. But just seeing the progress just from camp and from now, he's gonna have a long career. He's gonna have a long career. He has just a feel for getting open, and creating separation.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I feel like you guys have a great offense there of just folks that were, kind of a little bit doubted too, right? Because DeVonta is he too skinny for the NFL? Jalen Hurts, can he actually become a real quarterback? Whatever, can he keep up the production, change of teams? I feel like that kind of underdog mentality fits well in the city of Philadelphia, and you guys are the number 1 seed right now, so no real underdog status anymore, man. But it's been a hell of a season to watch the Philadelphia Eagles, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Heck yeah. Like I say, man, paper doesn't play football. We do. We got to go out there and prove it.
Exactly.
You've been doing it, man. And so, like I said, we'll leave you with this, man. I appreciate you, coming out here doing your thing, man. Like I said, you got a new fan. Out here in LA, man.
So much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, that's great stuff. Well, hey, AJ, good luck the rest of the season. Stay healthy. Continue to crush it, man. It's been great to watch the Eagles, and it should be fun as you make a postseason push here. Even if you got some big regular season games coming up, we know there's some bigger things on the horizon, man. So good luck the rest of the way.
For sure. Thank you.
All right, have a good one, brother.
All right, thank y'all for having me.
Yep.
Appreciate it, man. All right. Shout out to AJ Brown for a great interview. Austin, shout out to you for a great show as always. That's going to do it for us on this week's episode of Ekeler's Edge. Of course, remember, you can send in questions to AskAustin@yahoosports.com. You can follow Austin on Twitter or Instagram @Austin Ekeler. You can follow me @Matt Harmon _BYB. And while you're there, for God's sakes, make sure you're following @Yahoo Fantasy. And don't forget to vote for Austin in the Pro Bowl. It's all over his Twitter. Make sure you're doing that. I will be back with a special guest tomorrow for Stat Nerd Thursday. Until then, we're out.